Heretic is a new movie starring Hugh Grant as this atheist guy. It also stars Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. They are two missionaries who go out to convert this guy, Mr. Reed, played by Mr. Grant, actually. And I was very interested in this movie, guys, for a long time. This movie came out, I believe, in November, little after Halloween. They chose to release this November 8th. It's a A24 movie. What do you know about that? A24, always pumping out good stuff, except when it's Y2K. This movie and Y2K were similar. Let's get into that, actually. I liked it a little more than Y2K, but they both were a bit disappointing. And let's talk about Heretic. This movie, when it was announced, I was very excited for several reasons. Number one, it's Hugh Grant in a horror movie. Number two, it's an A24 movie. Number three, the concept alone. You have these two people, two girls, one guy in a house. It's just one setting. Thinking that's interesting. Like, what can you do with a one setting, movie? That's always interesting to me. And the fourth reason was this is directed and written by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who up to this point have been making movies that usually are misses. They wrote A Quiet Place, which was, their runaway success, directed by John Krasinski, so they didn't direct it. But then they went and they made movies like 65, that Adam Driver movie, which was absolutely terrible. I mean, that movie was just like, I didn't even get the point. It was like he crashes on a planet 65 million years ago and there's like dinosaurs. It was stupid. It was so stupid. I never saw their movie Haunt. Do want to see that. But they pretty much haven't made anything that's been obviously amazing or, it's A Quiet Place is what they're known for. But for directing, I've been waiting to see what are these guys capable of. And Heretic to me is just, I don't want to say it's bad. It is a disappointing movie. I think it's intriguing, but it totally fizzles out. There's a movie this reminded me of, which also isn't amazing. It's called Martyrs. I don't know if you guys know that movie. It's known for being a shock, torture porn, really fucked up movie. It's from 2008. Really, really messed up movie. This isn't so messed up, but it actually kind of reminded me of that movie with what it's trying to say in the end. And I'm going to have to get into spoiler territory here. So, spoilers for Heretic, you've been warned. But yeah, this reminded me of Martyrs, because it's all about a person trying to see if God is real or trying to prove that maybe God isn't real. I think that the concept here is so good and there's so much possibilities for such intrigue, but the way it ends and the way the story builds up is just like a tease. It's like it's edging you into being waiting for something crazy, something creepy, something even Lovecraftian or ethereal. I just really was disappointed with where this movie went at the end. This whole movie, you have this really creepy, grounded concept of these two missionary girls who go to this guy's house and they travel to the middle of nowhere to this guy's house, and he's kind of, giving them these creepy, he's making them feel comfortable. You get the sense something's off. He says, my wife's in the next room. I'll get her. She's not feeling well. And they're like, we need a woman in the room, if we're going to be here. And he's like, oh, she'll make you pie. Then you find out that he is lying about the pie, or he has a blueberry candle instead of, he says blueberry pie is baking in the next room. But then you find out it's a candle. Everything is being built up. But then the movie just, if I'm being very simple and blunt, it just goes into monologuing about religion. It's not really executing anything that's scary. It's just this guy who is being really creepy. He's keeping these girls locked in his house, but there's no threat. It's just him saying, I'm gonna make you not believe in God. Maybe if you're devoutly religious, it's scary. But I think to any horror viewer, the movie isn't scary because there's no threat that's being laid out, flat out. You just couldn't get the vibe. This guy's creepy. He's not letting the girls out of his house, but he just keeps monologuing about religion. The monologues and the dialogue itself is not bad. There are some really cool comparisons, where he's comparing religion to board games, or he's saying each religion is a knockoff of the next, or he's just making these, very blunt points about where his stance on religion is. And I think the writing there is good because you do get that there are people like that. You do understand atheists would feel like that. But I just don't think from a horror perspective, it functions. And it's not an effective story or one that has an effectively creepy ending, because it's just this guy monologuing and then trying to prove to these girls like God isn't real. It's almost like this religious horror, or like when you watch those like faith movies, it's almost like that done on a pretty high budget, but it just doesn't work. Like as we were getting to the end, I was thinking like this, like where the fuck is this going? It has a 10 Cloverfield Lane kind of buildup, which is good, where you can't trust the guy, where you're curious what else is inside his house. And then there's this cool imagery of like, he has this model of the house. You're wondering like, is there something creepy hidden beneath? But just how it ends, he has these like women chained up in his basement who are all just like likely missionaries who tried to convert him or tried to convince him, to believe in God, but they didn't. And now he just keeps them there and he's trying to see if they still believe in God. It just is so not scary from a typical movie perspective. Like when you get to the end, you're like, this is all that we've been building up to. He's just pretty much keeping people locked away. But it's like, if that was the scary thing, maybe even reveal that earlier and then there's something else like worse. It just feels like it's not a terribly big reveal for everything we've been talking about with God and religion. I was really thinking there would be some dark, entity or Lovecraftian horror element at play. Like maybe there is this demon, involved. It has that long legs problem where it kind of just says, this is the issue, but never really shows it or feels like, oh shit, like that's really bad. It just didn't work for me. I think this movie starts really promising, but then as it goes on, it just becomes more and more hard to believe, hard to feel like what's going on in the film actually could happen or actually has a threat or a stake. So I didn't really think Heretic was that good. I went into this with high expectations. I loved the imagery. I loved the play-like dialogue. I loved all the performances, and I really loved the visuals. But as it goes on, for a horror movie, this just isn't scary. It really loses suspense, and it just kind of fizzles out. So it isn't really that great of a horror movie to me. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe I'm right. Maybe this just isn't a scary movie. Maybe there is something about religion that it has to say that it just didn't, hit for me. Let me know what you guys think of Heretic. It really wasn't one of the scarier movies of the year. It was different for a horror movie, but it just didn't feel like a great horror movie. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching this review.